Hello, everyone. Vincent is back, and I'm here to share my story about my journey out of the Watchtower Society and how I became a follower of Christ. And as I always say, I'm so excited to continue on in my testimony and everything that God has done for me. I haven't made a video in a while, and of course, I have to give you all of my excuses for not making a video. Uh, but so many things have happened. Well, first of all, I was gone for a month. I just got back a couple weeks ago. I went back to Kenya. We had a lot of fun, enjoyed it. But now I'm back, so there was that month. And then I made a couple of videos the last time because I knew I probably wouldn't make a video for a while. Not because I don't want to, but I wanted to give time to think about some of the subjects, some of the direction that this channel was going to continue. Because my last video was the climax, you could say. That was the day Christ came and he changed everything. And that's what this video is going to be about. This is going to be a lighter video. I just want to talk about how grateful I am that Christ came to me and that he has saved me and he has made me the happiest person. Everything has changed for me. Like I said, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything has changed. And I could never be as happy as I am now. I mean, it's amazing. And a lot of things that I'm going to be saying I'm just reiterating or maybe even repeating some of the things that I have said through all of these videos. I mean, it has been a few years since Christ came. Yet, on Sunday, when I go to a church and I'm sitting there listening to this sermon, I still can't believe I'm there. I mean, I go to the church purposely about 10 or 15 minutes early. Why? Because on the screen they have this countdown to when the sermon starts. I kind of like that. And so I spend time just meditating. What do I meditate about? I have to say it's always the same thing. How grateful I am to be there. I mean, I look at the cross above the stage and most of the time I have tears in my eyes because I cannot believe that Christ came to me and he loved me and he saved me that day. What a wonderful thing that is. And that is something that a witness will never comprehend because, as I said, Satan has blinded their eyes. They think they're the happiest people on earth. I thought I was the happiest person on earth in the Watchtower. Okay, I say that, but I'll be honest with you. I said I was the happiest person on earth. I was not the happiest person. That is for sure. And witnesses are lying to themselves when they say that. The Watchtower Society is exhausting. Yes, when I was truly in, I wanted to go to the meetings, but I did not want to knock on doors. I was so exhausted. Like most witnesses, they want to just go home. As soon as they go out, they just want to be back home. Why? Because they're tired. And some might think, well, you must not have been a witness because I love the door-to-door work. No. As I've said throughout these videos, I was the living, breathing Watchtower. You did not want to reckon with me when I was in the Watchtower. In fact, I can honestly say that I was probably more a witness than most people in my area. I mean, I couldn't find people to even talk about deep Bible subjects. I couldn't find people that really cared about spiritual things. And so many people were doing bad things. They were getting drunk and things like that. Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses do a lot of bad things. I can tell you many stories about that. So, yes, I was a witness through and through. I believed everything. I believed it was God's organization. That's why I can't believe that Christ came to me. I mean, I cannot believe that I was like that before. It is amazing what has happened to me. And there is not one day that goes by that I am not grateful for what God has done for me. And when I say that I'm grateful every day, I mean that consciously. I mean, I get out of bed and I cannot believe Christ came to me. I drive to work and I'm just amazed as to what a different person I am inside and out. And I am just so grateful to God. Even if I don't tell God that verbally every day, I'm thinking of it. And I am totally conscious of it. So what this video is going to be about is simply how grateful I am for being saved by Christ. And I want to talk about some of the things that have changed for me since leaving. First of all, I'm thinking physically and mentally and emotionally. Uh, it's so nice when you can finally rest in Christ. You don't have all of these obligations that men are throwing at you. They're not telling you have to go to the meetings and you have to knock on doors. Uh, Men don't have that kind of authority. They should never tell you those things. And the witnesses would pull scriptures out and they would use it to guilt you. For example, Paul said, not to forsake the gathering of ourselves together. He wasn't setting up a schedule of meetings and telling everyone they need to be here, be here, be here at this time. Paul just said that and then he moved on. Yes, Christians should gather together. I do gather together. Where there's three or more, Christ is with us. Or I should say, where there's two or more gathered, Christ is with us. So I don't have that hanging over my head. I go to the church I go to listen to a sermon because I want that sermon. We don't go to church, and witnesses, they should feel that they don't go to meetings for men or for God. They're doing it for themselves. And the Watchtower doesn't seem to understand that. They think that you need to go to these meetings because God is requiring this. No, they are requiring it. They're giving you a harsh schedule to follow, and you have to be in line with that. Otherwise, you're not spiritual. You're not qualified for all of their privileges and things like that. So it feels so good to rest, and it's up to me when I want to go to this church and listen to the sermons and listen to the music. And most of the time I do go because, Jesus said that when you go to the synagogue, everything they say, do, but not according to their deeds. I've repeated that in the past. And that's exactly what I do when I go to church. Because are there false religions? Of course there is. God doesn't work through these religions. No. However, these sermons are very good, and you can feel God's Spirit. God's Spirit, as I said, He doesn't operate with an entire organization, everything it does. God's Spirit operates in the moment. When people are speaking truth about Jesus Christ, truth of the Scriptures, and when they're singing music that gives Him praise, God's Spirit is there in the moment, and I feel God's Spirit. Now, witnesses, they always thought that they felt God's Spirit. I was a witness before. No, I did not feel God's Spirit. What I felt was empowerment from being an elder, from giving my talks, even from listening to the conventions. It empowered me as a person. And so I would think that that's God's Spirit. No, it is not God's Spirit. I feel God's Spirit today. I have God's Spirit. And it is completely different than what I thought as a witness. So again, I can rest each day. I can come home from work. I can enjoy my time with God in the mornings. I don't have to get up, go knock on doors. I don't have meetings to attend. I can just love God and take in God. What a wonderful feeling that is. So my mind and my body are at rest. In addition to that, on a physical level, what's really nice, and this is what I'm very grateful for too, is that now I can truly provide for my family. In the Watchtower Society, you had to have this perfect schedule so that you can attend all of the meetings and you could knock on doors. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Like I said in the past, not so much now, maybe later, I was working a lot of doubles. I was working 16-hour days where I was. And I can do that now because it's not construction. It's a lot easier on the body, and I enjoy my work. So I did that. I did that so I could provide for my family, not just, provide the bare minimum. I want money so that I can help my family to do some fun things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Your family, if you can provide for your family and provide a little extra for them, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That means you're being a good father, a good husband to do that. And now I can truly provide for my family. But in the Watchtower Society, you couldn't do that. I had to remain in construction for the most part because of the perfect schedule it gave me. Now I don't have to worry about that. I can do whatever it takes to provide for my family. So I am very grateful for that aspect as well. But now, as far as God is concerned, what are some things that have changed? Well, I want to talk about the subject of prayer. In the Watchtower Society, remember, God was not your father in a special way, as they said. God was not your papa. Uh, God was your father because he created you. He was your father in that way. But he wasn't your papa. He wasn't Abba Father to you. He was just your friend. And we've talked about that in the past. And so when you prayed to God as if he was a little bit distant from you. You would pray to God like the psalmists prayed all the time. Now, is there anything wrong with the way the psalmist prayed? No, not at all. I pray many times like the psalmist. I elevate God. I praise his name. All of that. I will pray just like one of the psalmists many times. And that's what I did in the Watchtower as well. But now, there is one thing that has changed, and that is God now is Abba Father to me. He is my Papa. I'm a child of God, and we've talked about that before in my past videos. How has that changed my relationship with God? Well, I have a relationship with God that is far different than the Watchtower Society. When you study the men of old, like in the Old Testament, you can see that the ones that were God's friends, they spoke to God pretty openly. A lot of times they spoke to God as if he were a man, as if they were not afraid of him. Why? Because they shouldn't have been afraid. Yes, God is fear-inspiring, and yes, there are times when they were in absolute fear of God. But for the most part, people spoke to God as a friend, and they spoke to God almost like he was a man. For some people, they may not agree with that, but it's pretty obvious when you read the scriptures. Well, that's what has happened to me today. When I say today, I mean when Christ came to me, prayer has changed. For example, when I am driving home from work, I talk to God just like he is my dad. And I am so glad now people can talk to people on the phone with Bluetooth in their car, because now I don't look crazy. People think I'm talking to a person in the car. No, I am talking to God. And I talk to God just like I said, like he is my dad. I call him Father. I never use his name when I'm praying to God on that level. How do I pray? Well, I'll just as a little format, I'll just say, Father, I am so grateful to be alive, and can you help me at work? Can you help me endure the day? I got a lot of things in my mind, and there's I got all of these thoughts flowing through, and I want to clear my mind, and I talk to God about little things too, just little things. In the Watchtower, they always made some of those little things look unimportant, like praying for your family to be, for a blessing to come upon your family. They would tell you that, you shouldn't ask for that, or you know what I mean. When it came to prayer in the Watchtower Society, they tried to dictate the things that you could even say. No, I talk to God about everything, everything. I pray that, say, my stepdaughter will be able to get into a school. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You have to pray to God about everything, all of your concerns in life. So I just talk to God like he is a man, with respect and honor, of course, when I'm driving to work. And then other times I praise God just like the psalmist, just like I did in the Watchtower Society. It's no different. And now I wanted to make a point that ties in with this prayer thing. I have never loved God's name as much as I do now. Witnesses like to think that they have a monopoly on God's name, and that's so obviously a lie. I mean, since I have left the Watchtower Society, like I said, I love God's name. In fact, I'm going to post a picture of a bumper sticker or a window decal that I have put on my car, because I am very proud of my Father, and I am proud of his name. When I talk to people about him, I will use his name. Why? Because I am proud of him. Just like a child. A child will never call his dad by his name, but when he is talking to other people about how proud he is of his dad, he will use his name. And there is nothing wrong with that. And then at that point, when a child is doing that, they love that name more than ever because they are so proud of it. That's the way it is with God's name. Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever you want to call God as far as the pronunciation of the name, it's the same thing. Because I do not say Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah all day long in every sentence like the Jehovah's Witnesses, God's name is very special to me now more than ever. Some of my favorite songs are based on God's name. One of my favorite songs is by Elevation Worship, and it's Jehovah, Jehovah Nisi. Uh, Absolutely love that song. They also have a song called Yahweh, We Love You. Phil Wickham has a song called Yahweh. I mean, when I listen to these songs, I just absolutely love them, and I am so proud of my Father, Yahweh. But on an everyday basis, when it comes to my relationship with God, I speak to Him with all boldness. I approach the throne with all boldness because He has forgiven me. He has already declared me righteous. He has cleansed me of all my past sin. He has thrown it away, you should say. He looks at His people as white as snow. Yes, that's the way God views us. Why is that? It's almost by default because Christ's Spirit is now in you. Christ's Spirit cannot be, it's independent of our own spirit, you could say. God cannot dwell in unclean places, you could say. So, God has truly forgiven me of all of my sin. And so, that's why I can approach the throne boldly and I can speak to Him the way I do. And I never was able to do that in the Watchtower Society. Something else has changed as far as communication, the way I speak to God, also to the way I listen to God. I take time to silence the voices in my head. I pray that I can get rid of all of the distractions, all of the bad thoughts out of my mind so I can focus on listening to God's voice. I want to hear His voice. And you can hear His voice when you clear your mind and you pray to God, because let's just say this. I was talking to someone about this. Actually, it was my son. And that is the fact that, if all you're doing is reading the Bible and all you love is the Bible, now this is going to offend someone because they're not going to understand, but I'm purposely making a shocking statement. You are living in the past. What do I mean by that? Because the Bible is a record of God's dealings with His people in the past. It's a record of Christ coming to earth, forgiving us of our sins. However, God does not just dwell in that book. God works with us today. When the apostles were doing their preaching work, setting up congregations and all of that, they had no idea that the book of Acts was going to be written. So they understood God's dealings from the Old Testament, but during that time, there were new books already being created. And one of them is the Acts of the Apostles. So God works in the present moment, not just in the Bible. And God works in pretty much the same ways. Instead of speaking to the prophets, He now speaks to us through His Son. And we can hear His voice. And we can be confident that God will speak to us if we listen to Him, and we can be confident that we can fulfill our mission, whatever it is for God, we can fulfill it when we listen to His voice speak to us. I don't have to listen to no governing body tell me what to do. I don't have to read a Watchtower to find the answer to a problem I'm having. I don't need to listen to any human. I can pray to God about it, and I can receive answers through my spirit. See, our spirit is a receptor to God, and we have to make sure that our receptor is not, doesn't have any interruptions. Like a radio, you got to fine tune it. That's the way our spirit is. We got to fine tune it. We got to get rid of all the disruptions that are going on in our head and in our life, so that we can truly get a clear signal, so to speak, from God, and we can hear His voice. We don't need men to tell us what to do or what to think. And that's another thing that has changed. Because now I listen to God's voice and not the governing body, I just feel more like a man, a real man, when I left the Watchtower Society and Christ came to me, because now I can read the Bible independent of all men. I don't, like I said, I don't need the governing body treating me like a child as if I know nothing and telling me what to do, and what to think. Because, that's all right if you're a parent. If you're a parent and you're teaching your child, yes, you got to tell him what to do because he doesn't know better. You've got to give him direction. That's just obvious because he's a child. I'm a child of God. I am not a child of Sanderson and Lett. I mean, come on. I'm a child of God. But they are disrespectful to people. They want you to crawl on your hands and knees into that kingdom hall and submit to everything they have to say, like you're some little child, a stupid child at that. No, I don't have to take that garbage anymore. I can be a real man that God has come to me. Christ has came to me and he has filled me with his spirit. And now I can have a direct relationship with God. I am just so grateful for that. It is amazing how things have changed for me. And I can go on and on about some of the other things that have changed as well. Something else that just popped in my head that I want to share, and that has to do with love. God is love. It is everything that he is. Something that God has changed within me is how I view people and the way I treat people. Now, when I was a witness, I thought I was a loving person, and I was to the extent possible. But I have been around witnesses lately, and even though I'm not a witness, I have been around witnesses, and they act just like I did when I was a witness when it comes to love. Witnesses say they love all the people, they love people, but they don't like the conduct. But I'm sorry, the Watchtower, the way it speaks, and they keep repeating certain phrases over and over again, the way they talk makes you dislike the people that are doing these bad things. Now, though, God has taught me to love people, and I mean that with all of my heart. When I am working with people, dealing with people that go against, what I feel is moral, people have different lifestyles, people do a lot of things that go against the Bible. It does not affect me at all, my love for them. I ask these people how they're doing. I talk to them. I separate conduct from who they are, because these people, yes, they're not followers of Christ, but these people are very kind people that I'm talking about. They treat me well. I treat them well. And I sincerely want them to feel good. And I sincerely just have a good time with them. I laugh with them. And I just love these people through and through, completely. I mean, I respect them in many different ways, even if I disagree with a lifestyle. I mean, if you were to see me today with people that are not followers of Christ, and then you compared me to the way I was, you would think you're looking at two different people completely. And like I said, I see other witnesses. I've been around other witnesses when they're with people that, are living a certain way, and there is no way they can hide it. They don't love these people through and through. All they want is to get people into this cult. That's it. That's it. They don't love them. They're not patient with them. But I mean, there are people like at work. Yeah, they may not live the life as a follower of Christ, but it would really hurt me if something were to happen to these people, because I have grown to appreciate them in so many ways. They are people, and that's just the way it is. And my love for them has grown. And just the way I view everybody, I don't judge people like I used to judge people. I see them as real humans with real weaknesses, just like myself. We're all sinners. And do I want these people to come to Christ? Most certainly. Do I try to help them come to Christ? Most certainly. Um, but I love them regardless. And that has been a huge change in my life. God has taught me love, real love. I can love everybody. And what's nice is when it comes to forgiveness, the other thing too is, for the most part, I have been able to forgive people before they even offend me. I don't care if somebody views me as their enemy. I don't care what bad things they have done. If they just come to me, I will forget